In 2005, a team of paleontologists uncovered the largest collection of dodo bones ever found, buried together in a single location on the island of Mauritius. What they discovered inside that bone bed didn't match the story everyone had been telling for 300 years. There was almost no evidence of human hunting at the site at all. Instead, the bones told a far stranger story, one involving rats, pigs, and a chain of ecological collapse that had nothing to do with anyone picking up a weapon. The real killer of the dodo had been hiding in plain sight the entire time. You already know the story you think you know. Dutch sailors land on a remote island. They find a slow, flightless bird with no fear of humans. They club it to death for food, generation after generation, until there are none left. It's become the go-to symbol for human cruelty toward nature. The phrase, "dead as a dodo," exists because of this exact story. Almost none of it is accurate. To understand why, you first need to understand what the dodo actually was, because the popular image of it is almost entirely fictional. The image most people picture, a grotesquely fat, waddling bird with a comically oversized beak, comes from a single source. A Dutch painting made in the 1620s by an artist named Roland Savory. Savory almost certainly never saw a living dodo in the wild. He likely worked from a captive, overfed specimen kept in a European menagerie, or possibly even a stuffed, badly preserved museum specimen. That one inaccurate painting was copied by other artists for the next 2 centuries, each copy exaggerating the same errors slightly further, until the fictional, cartoonish dodo became more culturally real than the actual bird. Recent skeletal analysis tells a very different story. The real dodo stood around 3 feet tall, with a slim, athletic build, strong legs built for fast movement through dense forest, and a tightly muscled body, nothing like the bloated caricature. It wasn't stupid either. Recent studies of dodo brain cavity size show their relative brain-to-body ratio was comparable to modern pigeons, their closest living relatives, animals widely recognized today for above-average intelligence and problem-solving ability among birds. The dodo wasn't a failed design that deserved to die. It was a highly successful animal that had spent millions of years perfectly adapted to one specific environment, an environment that had absolutely no large predators of any kind. That single fact is the actual key to everything that happened next. For roughly 4 million years, Mauritius had no mammals at all. No rats, no cats, no pigs, no monkeys. Nothing with teeth and a hunting instinct. In that environment, flight became a wasted investment of energy. Climate was stable. Food was abundant on the forest floor. There was simply nothing to fly away from. So the dodo's ancestors, which scientists believe were a type of pigeon that flew to the island millions of years ago, gradually lost the ability to fly entirely, evolving into a ground-dwelling bird perfectly suited to an island with 0 threats. Its lack of fear around the Dutch sailors who arrived in 1598 wasn't stupidity. It was perfectly rational behavior for an animal whose entire evolutionary history contained no reason to be afraid of anything walking on 2 legs. Sailors' accounts from the era do confirm dodos were sometimes killed for food. But here's what those same accounts also describe. The meat was widely reported as tough and unpleasant tasting. Multiple ship logs describe sailors actively avoiding eating dodo meat when other food sources were available, only resorting to it during genuine emergencies. Direct hunting almost certainly happened, but the math doesn't support it as the primary extinction cause. So what actually happened? The ships that brought Dutch sailors to Mauritius didn't just bring humans. They brought rats. Specifically, ship rats, an invasive species that had never existed anywhere near Mauritius before 1598, that escaped onto the island almost immediately upon the first ship's arrival. Dodos built their nests directly on the forest floor. A perfectly safe strategy in a world with no ground predators. Rats discovered an almost unlimited supply of dodo eggs, completely undefended, in nests the dodos had never needed to protect. Within a few generations, rat populations exploded across the island, systematically destroying dodo eggs faster than the birds could possibly replace them. But rats were only the first wave. Later Dutch settlers, and the pirates who frequently used Mauritius as a resupply base, deliberately released pigs and macaque monkeys onto the island, intending to establish convenient future food sources for passing ships. Pigs proved to be devastatingly efficient at locating and rooting up ground nests, while monkeys actively raided eggs directly from nests whenever they found them. Within decades, the dodo was facing 3 entirely new, highly efficient predator species simultaneously, on an island where its entire evolutionary strategy depended on there being 0 predators of any kind. The 2005 bone bed discovery confirmed this timeline precisely. Researchers found a mass death layer at the site, dated to a period of severe drought, where dodos, deer, and other species had all gathered desperately around the island's last remaining water sources before dying together. The drought had concentrated the remaining dodo population into a few small areas. Concentrated populations made it dramatically easier for the newly introduced predators to find and destroy every remaining nest. But here is the part almost nobody talks about. Humans never actually needed to hunt the dodo to extinction at all. The simple act of arriving with rats hiding in cargo holds, then later deliberately introducing pigs and monkeys for unrelated reasons, was entirely sufficient to collapse the entire species within roughly 80 years, all without a single sailor lifting a weapon against an adult bird. This completely changes what the dodo's extinction actually represents. It isn't really a story about direct human cruelty. It's a story about how devastatingly destructive humans can be by complete accident, simply by moving between ecosystems and inadvertently carrying other species along with us. The same basic pattern that destroyed the dodo has been repeated relentlessly across history. Invasive rats alone have been directly linked to dozens of island bird extinctions worldwide, from Hawaii's flightless rail to numerous Pacific Island species that vanished with almost no written historical record at all. The dodo simply happened to be the most famous, best documented example of a pattern that has actually played out hundreds of times across human history. In 1681, the very last confirmed dodo sighting was recorded by a sailor passing through Mauritius. No fanfare, no funeral, no headline anywhere in the world. Just one final entry in one ship's logbook, describing an animal that within mere years would vanish from the island entirely, and would take scientists nearly 2 centuries to even prove had genuinely existed in the first place. For 300 years afterward, the dodo became a convenient morality tale. A simple story about human violence, destroying an innocent, stupid creature that somehow deserved its fate through its own foolishness. The actual truth is significantly less comfortable. The dodo wasn't stupid. It wasn't even primarily killed by human hands directly. It was an intelligent, perfectly evolved animal that had thrived for millions of years in an environment built entirely around one single missing variable: the complete and total absence of predators. The moment humans accidentally reintroduced that missing variable back into the ecosystem, in the form of rats hiding silently in cargo holds, the entire system collapsed within less than a single human lifetime. We didn't kill the dodo because it was foolish. We killed it by accident, simply by existing in the same physical space and bringing other species along with us without ever fully realizing what we were doing. That's a far stranger story than the one you grew up hearing. And it's considerably more unsettling because it means the next extinction caused by careless human movement might not look anything like deliberate cruelty either. It might just look like rats quietly slipping off a ship in the dark.